Hey there, this is James Tripp. This is a video answering a question from somebody here on the channel around spatial organisation. Now, spatial organisation, this is to do with how our minds utilise the idea of space in their cognitive processes. It's going to be relevant to you if you're just interested in psychology, interested in the mind, interested in human beings, how they work, or if you are a professional communicator, there's going to be some relevancy here for you in this. So let's jump to the question. It's from Terry. And Terry is asking, he says, James, I'm reading your book, Hypnosis Without Trance, almost done, and I wasn't able to find anywhere on the internet a definition of spatial organisation. Does that mean if he mentions his soul and points to a part of his body, then in response you mention his soul, you should point to the area where he said his soul was? So you are definitely on the right track there, Terry. But what you're describing there is how you would utilize the idea of spatial organization in a change work context. Now, this is the place where it's most relevant, and this is why it's relevant to professional communicators. But the idea underneath of it is this: space is a fundamental organizing metaphor for us as human beings, and we use it in our thoughts and in our thinking. And when we use it consistently in particular ways. So things don't bounce around in space because part of how we hold things, our understandings of things, makes use of space. And if our understandings are going to remain consistent, the spatial organization remains consistent. So let me just say something about space first and foremost. If you look at cognitive linguistics, say the ideas of Lakoff and Johnson in their book Philosophy in the Flesh, or some of Lakoff's other books, you will start to recognize that space is a fundamental organizing metaphor. We think, underneath of our thinking are these organizing metaphors, and the most primary organizing metaphor for us human beings is space. It is the first thing that becomes of significance to us even before we leave the womb. Right? Think about it. You're in the womb, you're growing. What is getting less and less? Space for you to move in. So you hear spatial metaphors in language all the time. I've got to get some distance on this. Can we move that ahead in the calendar? Okay, I need to just get back to how I used to be. Get back. Okay, these are spatial things. You might think that's talking about time, but time is understood in terms of space. You know, if we go forward into the future or back into the past, you see, we're talking in terms of space. So we organize time in terms of space as well. And this is something you'll find interesting. Some people will know this who are trained in NLP. If you were to sit down with somebody and say to them, and you do this, you get them to not think about it. You say, just without thinking about it, if I were to ask you to go ahead and point to your future, which direction would you point in? Just point. And people all point in a direction and they will go, huh. Right? Or they will go, huh, or something like this. And you say, if you were to point to your past, where would it be? Here or here. Okay, people all point in different places, but that always remains so. They're not going to say, well, today I feel like it's over there. Or today I feel it's over there. Unconsciously, they always code their future in that space. Now, even something like that, spatial organization, if you know where somebody is encoding their future, and you want to be with your words and your communication, painting a bright future for them, you want to know that. You want to know where to put it. You want to know where to direct their gaze, their vision, as you're speaking, and where to place those things with your hand. That's an incredibly useful thing. If you want to influence somebody in a particular direction, that's a very, very useful thing. Put good things in their future. Okay? If you want to help somebody put something less useful in their past, if you know where their past is, right, you can help to put it there. And please do not assume that everybody has their past organized behind them and their future in front. Okay, in NLP, that's called an in-time organization. A lot of people will have a through-time organization, which is the future is off to the right, typically, and the past is off to the left. You will get some idiosyncrasies on this. I once worked with somebody who was from Japan, a client from Japan, and his future was up there and his past was down there. Okay, I think that was the way it went, or maybe it was the other way around. This is like 15 years ago, so it's tricky to remember. But you get unusual idiosyncratic organizations at time. But people will organize everything spatially. So I had a client once many, many years ago. He said, these thoughts just keep attacking me, right? And they were coming in from here. And every time he talked about these thoughts, he would gesture up here because this is where they were coming from. So once you know that, if I want to say to that client, so these thoughts, I want to gesture in accordance with how he's been gesturing, how he's been organizing things, you see. Now you'll find that you can manipulate these organizations. If you're a professional communicator in the realm of coaching or change work, sometimes even simple things. Somebody might say, well, this voice, it just keeps undermining me all the time, right? And they're gesturing back here. And you say, so I'm curious, that voice, and you point and you flash your eyebrows towards where it is. And they'll go, this is an outsider conscious response. You've entered their world in a profound way. You are not just getting rapport with them, you're getting rapport with their deep organization of reality. This is a powerful thing. But you could say, those thoughts, you know where they are, don't you? So I might do something like that when I'm working with a client. They go, and they start to bring consciousness. Now here's the thing. A lot of the time, if you're doing change work and stuff like that, which is the realm that I work in, coaching, change work, transformational work, this kind of thing, if you are dealing with an unconscious response, one of the most powerful antidotes to an unconscious response is consciousness. Very simply speaking, consciousness. People are very poor witnesses to their own processes. Often becoming aware is transformative in and of itself. But you can go beyond that. You can play with it. Person says, you see, where those are, right? They go, and before they answer, you say, I'm curious, if those thoughts were coming from over there, that voice, how would that be different now? Okay, so you're getting a difference. And what often happens is people go, and then you can check in. So how is that different when they're coming from over there? I don't know, they don't have the same kind of impact. Isn't that a strange thing? So once you start recognizing spatial organization, if you're working with somebody, you can work without letting them in on what you're doing because you can gesture in order to get that deeper rapport. You can think about where you want to put various things in relation to their psychological landscape, so to speak. But you can also help people become aware and bring consciousness and get new levels of power in their own life with regard to how they relate to themselves. They become better witnesses to their own processes. When they do, they become empowered to bring in that magical faculty that gets so often overlooked, which is the faculty of conscious choice, decision, these sorts of things. You see what I mean? So that's not the full range there. I just wanted to give a few examples, but the real thing to understand is that people organize their ideas spatially often. By the way, that's not always around them, it can be within them. So there's a kind of inner space and an outer space. Interestingly, when people are talking about problems and these sorts of things, very often the problem states and this sort of thing are in the body. But when they're talking about resources, they often have a much more expansive spatial organization. So if you say to somebody, when you're performing at your best, that's like what? They'll go, it's like I'm an eagle soaring, right? They'll do something like this. It's expansive. They are the eagle, but they are in the landscape soaring. But if you say to somebody, so when you go to give that talk and there's something holding you back, what is it that's happening there? And they'll go, and they're gesturing to things in their body. Okay, it's not always the case. You can get resource states in the body, this kind of thing, but often that's the case. Problem stuff is often stuck in the body. Resource stuff is much more expansive. It's not that it doesn't include the body, it's just much more expansive stuff. Okay, so a little bit of a quick, rough tour of spatial organization, some of the implications of it. And if you got some value from this, you know what to do. You can hit that thumbs up. If you've got questions about this, you can make use of that comment section below. Maybe you're wondering, well, I'm not a professional communicator, but can I use this in my everyday life? Okay, if you've got questions like this, please do make use of the comments section. And if you're not subscribed to the channel and you're interested in using your mind to shape and create your life, we have the power to do this. We are doing it all the time. Then sign up to the channel and ask the questions you want to ask, and that drives the conversation forward.